Welcome to The Learning Curve, the podcast for parents and educators, where we discuss positive parenting and supporting your child on their learning journey. As parents, we all want to provide the best possible environment for our children to learn and grow. But with so much information out there, it can be overwhelming to know where to start. In today's episode, we have the pleasure of hosting Jenny Ng, a renowned parenting coach and educator, who aims to help parents create a deeper connection with their children through conscious parenting practices. Having benefited from her own healing and awakening journey, she advocates for self-parenting and healing by identifying triggers and patterns and working through them to develop a better sense of self and consequently a better relationship with their children. Jenny has 10 years of cumulative experience in education, adult education, parent and family life education, and problem-based learning environments. She also hosts Wu Dao dance therapy sessions, helping her clients restore balance in their lives through movement and breath work. Jenny's passion for guiding parents and her profound insights into the healing journey of parenthood made her a vulnerable resource for anyone seeking to create deep connections with their children. Join us as we uncover Jenny's inspiring story, her personal healing journey, and her transformative approach to conscious parenting. Get ready to gain valuable insights and practical advice that will empower you to embrace the challenges of parenting and foster a nurturing environment for your children. Welcome to our podcast, and let's dive into the enriching conversation with Jenny Ng.
Hi everyone, welcome to our podcast. And today I'm very happy to have Janie with us. And Janie, she's a very, very nice lady, a very, very nice parenting coach. She's also an educator as well. And she has a lot of knowledge about parenting and educating the next generation. So I'm very honored to have Janie to be here. Let's welcome Janie. And Janie, introduce yourself so that everybody knows who you are.
Thank you, Luan, for bringing me here, and get to meet everyone who is watching this video. I'm Jenny Ng, a conscious parenting coach, and I am also a teen coach because of my background, where I'm also part of this educator at the post-secondary institution. So I teach there critical thinking and problem-solving skills and life skills. Yeah, that's me.
Nice. Welcome, and very, very honored to have you here and very happy to have you here to share with us. So what inspired you to become a parenting coach, and how has your own healing journey influenced your coaching approach?
Yes, I love this question because it always brings me back to the beginner's mind, right? So 13 years ago, I had my daughter and I only have one child. So that particular breastfeeding night has kind of awakened me from inside out. Just briefly share a bit, right? So, you know, how we were breastfeeding, however months that the parents can, right? The mommy can. So for me, right, that particular night, you know how sleep is very precious. And I thought I'm giving my child unconditional love, okay? And somehow, conscious or unconsciously, she touched my cheek that night. Then I was like, whoa, so that means that unconditional love is bi-directional, right? She is giving me and accepted me for who I am and who I'm not. Of course, that's my own interpretation, but that interpretation is so good because I've grown up from a big family. So my parents have 5 children. So always I felt that I was conditionally loved and raised. I have to meet, different needs of my siblings and my parents. So when my child is able to touch my face like that, right, and accepted me, it blew me away. And from then on, it started my healing journey to accept who I am and who I'm not. And with that, right, it's a lot of letting go of certain childhood wounds. Like, it's not that our parents are not raising us the way they want, but they thought that is the best way, right? They bring the food, they cook the food for us. They ask us, have you done your homework? Those are actually, to them, is love and concern, right? But because our needs back then was different, I think I was more emotional, sensitive child. So I wanted something more, right? So I wanted unconditional love, where my parents wasn't able to attend to that needs, but my child, right, my real child in front of me was able to give me that started the journey, and I accept myself. Yeah.
Nice, very touching. And I can really feel, like, when you mentioned about child touching you, like when I had my first child as well, it's like when their little hands like hold onto your fingers, like wow, the connection is a bzzz, like electric shock going into your heart. Yeah, so I can really feel how you feel as well when your baby touch your cheek when you're
Yeah,
breastfeeding.
and so lovely that you are able to pay attention to this little thing, right? That vibration that from your child's fingers to your heart, yeah, is in terms of one of the communication too.
Nice.
Yes.
I think it's only when we become a mom, then we actually feel the kind of like real connection. We become very vulnerable and fragile and allow the child to get emotionally into us. Yeah. How do you help parents like create this kind of deep connection, right, with their children through the conscious parenting practices?
So conscious parenting, right, in fact, is more of like we first raise our inner child, which was what the wounds, the childhood wounds that I mentioned, right? Your need wasn't met when you were young, right? And then now it sits in as an inner child inside ourselves as an adult, right? So that inner child gets to heal. We have to first attend to that inner child. I would say it's a self-parenting journey to parent ourselves, that inner child first. And then we are able to connect with our children. So what do I mean by that, right? So say, from young, there was this childhood experience that I got rejected by my parents. Maybe, I'm just giving an example, right? I wanted that praise, right? But my parents were like, oh, because they are so busy with other children, that, okay, brush me off that. Then I was like, I felt rejected, right? So it is kind of in, the memory on our body. As I grow up, the next time I face rejection, it kind of brings me back to that childhood experience. Everyone has their own different wounds and childhood experience that are the needs not met, right? Nothing wrong. It's just whether you're aware or not. So because I'm aware that rejection is so important, so when my child, right, the real child in front of me, like maybe I ask her to say, it's about time for you to put down your phone and do your homework. But she rejects me and continue to do. Right? Then if I wasn't aware, I probably has the usual reaction. Like, how many times I have reminded you and why are you still sitting here? Like when I'm nagging and she's not going to make any changes. So there's no deep connection. It's really the disconnection and distance away from my child. But because I'm aware that rejection is one trigger that I had, so the inner space, I can give a space for that rejection, that the feeling of, and still have that space inside and interact with my child. It is not going to be the block or gaps between me and my child. So I was like, okay, stay calm, right? Because I know what's going on inside, right? So can you tell me a time that you can put down your phone and go back to your, where you were just now? Then that is first that, oh, mommy is not scolding me, right? So yeah, I think that makes sense. I just give some time so that we can manage each other's expectation. She's 13, so we can have this kind of conversation. This is very easy, right? Because we are able to first accept our imperfection and that vulnerabilities, right, inside of us. Then at times when our children come back, right, my daughter come back with like, oh, what happened? Maybe she got some rejection from friend earlier on, right? Then I was like, I can feel that. That is the rejection that she is getting from the friend. Then I become a bit more empathetic, right? In terms of listening to her and present in front of her, show up, right? To say, I'm able to hold this space because I'm able to hold that space for myself, right? So I can give her that space to say, oh, you got rejected by your friend. Okay, I'm listening. Then you probably would come up naturally some kind words and compassionate words that you say to yourself already, right? And then give it to her too. So then when she felt that, she's like, oh, mommy, know me, right? So then our heart and heart connection is there. We can, like hold together and be human.
You can totally feel it, especially when you mention about, hey, go and do your homework.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
had this moment where it's like, why are you not listening to me? It's like, wow, I'm just, as a parent, we always like rushing up and down, getting things done, and then we still have to chase you for homework. It's like, why can't you just do it yourself? Very easily, we tend to flare up. As we flare up, they also won't listen. They were just like, They'll just brush it off, or they'll do it unwillingly.
Yeah, and that flare up, right, probably is something that is not just showing up in your life when you interact with your child, but it's also like, towards your spouse, your parents, your colleagues, right? But where is this flare up come from? Is it something that you can see and, decide to do something about that?
Yeah, which is what you mentioned, right? A lot of consciousness need to be there for us to be conscious about it and be aware of it before we even react to the situation. So in that case, right, what kind of advice would you give for mothers who struggle to balance their personal healing journey and with the demands of parenting?
Yeah. So when you ask that question, right, I hear about 3 keywords that how we interpret this question, or this the understanding of first, struggle, right? Sometimes when we say when struggles appeared, be it through words and through whatever form, right? We're like, oh, like it's painful, maybe certain things that happen inside of you, right? Then you interpret struggle. There are different reactions. We probably would want to run away from struggle or fight the struggle, like the energy level and the anger, different things. So first, can we interpret struggle as something that is a learning opportunity or grow opportunity? Okay, struggle comes. Interesting. Why am I having this struggle? What is stopping me from facing it, right? If we are trying to run away. So it's a learning opportunity about ourselves. Nothing wrong about struggle, then we are able to continue to do, right? That's first thing first. Then second, personal healing is how we interpret personal healing. Is it something that, we have to stay away from the busy life, the healing journey, right? We can really heal ourselves, right? It's something different. Healing is happening inside because you know your wounds, and then you have certain medicine, right? Some ways to attend to that wounds. It have various ones. Sometimes for you is meditation, sometimes for you is the talk therapy, right? Coaching. And then sometimes is like, go exercise, that healing, right? Different kinds of healing is just trying to soothe your wounds a bit. And of course, there are healing that you can slowly get it become a smaller wound. In terms of recover, the wounds can still appear in other forms. So it would still pop up. So that is the healing part. And then the demands of parenting. So then we'll put together, right, to attend to these questions. Demands of parenting, right? It sounds like something from outside. Do you agree?
Yes.
Right. Yes. Right. But sometimes demands is ourselves, the expectation we have for ourselves, right? We have some requirement about, as a mom, I have to, right, with you in the blank, right? Different people have different version. And that is already one layer. And then probably that demand from school, from teachers, the demands from your parents, right? And extended family, and then the demands from the society, because like we define success kind of universal in Singapore, right? That 5C, if I can give that example. So then are we aware of all these different parts of demands? At the end of the day, right, we have to come back to the center, right? What is the expectation we have for ourselves, right? For our children. And sometimes, not to forget the demand that we have for ourselves, so that we can have that kind of children that we want, right? As long as we are clear about, our parental goal, for example, I just want to raise a responsible, resilient child. In order to raise that child, first, how do our children become responsible and resilient? They have to make mistakes. They have to own some responsibility, right? Then depends on our children at this age in front of us. Say mine is 13, right? Then what does responsible and make mistake means for the 13-year-old? Right? Give them the opportunity to make mistake and hold some responsibility, so that bit by bits, right? One step at a time, from different age, they'll get there to that responsible and resilient adult. When we are clear, why are we parent our child in that certain way, and we will not easily sway by, whatever our parents say. The grandparent could just say a few words, then you're like, oh, am I right? Is it still correct for me to do this? Right? Or your colleague will say something, hey, my child, right? Then you'll make it mean something towards yourself, right? Because you are clear, then you will like, okay, I hear you, right? These are some of your perspective. I acknowledge that, but I know what I'm doing.
Nice, nice. Yeah, it's really, really important to know that in ourselves as well. And the expectation we always give is always very high
Mm,
to ourselves and to our children.
Mm.
I think because of the high demand or high expectation that we have, we add a lot of stress and pressure onto ourselves. I guess that's why there's always topic about like why mom yell.
Yeah, and sometimes it's because we have like hey, I think I want to raise this kind of child, right? And then suddenly the PSLE come, then wow, then PSLE is very important, right? Is my child going to pass or get to the good school? Then the pressure come. Then you kind of like, I forgot what, the kind of goals that I want to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do understand that. Especially my first one, PSLE 2 years back. I always remind myself, the result doesn't determine what kind of child I have, but how he take on responsibility, how he handle himself, all this is way more important than the results.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing like tips or techniques, like how to identify those triggers and patterns, and how do we work through them to develop a better sense of self and a better relationship with our children?
I have bags of tools, but because I'm writing a book, so I'm planning for a launch, right? It's called Parenting Unchained. In that book, I do have one tools that called CARE, C-A-R-E, right? So C stand for first check in with yourself. Check in with yourself at that present moment. So are you angry at this moment? Are you tired at this moment? Were you just having some conflicts with your colleagues earlier on? So just acknowledge at the present moment, what are you experiencing, right? That's first step. When before or during when you're interacting with your child, right? So acknowledge that already. So you know that, with this, I call it emotional love tank. It's not 100%, it's probably like 20%. Then you know that you won't be your best mom at this moment, that performance of as a mom, right? So then next step is R, reconnect. Reconnect to the present moment. At the same time, reconnect the kind of mom you want to be, right? But it's not easy, like at that moment, if you're upset, like you still think about, hey, I want to be a loving, kind mom, right? So not easy, but at least reconnect with the present moment. Okay, what happened in front of me right now? Just acknowledge that situation that is showing up. Can you be there? If you can't at this state, you can ask for a break, like go, I need just 5 minutes to come back. That reconnection of present moment is very important so that you can move on. Okay. Oh, I skipped the A.
Yeah, I was like thinking,
all right.
where's
So yes, A, attune with your child's needs. At this moment, right, your child may be just not doing homework, but what is the needs right now? So the behavior outside show that it's just not touching that homework, right? But it can be through a question, it can be through your observation, right? Maybe the child don't know how to do this particular homework. And the child is trying to run away from, have to face that, oh, I don't know how to do, because sometimes there's the fight or flight mode. So then the child cannot face or sit in front and do that homework. Or is the child just not having that emotional state, right, to have the calm state to want to do homework, maybe too tired, it just needs some break. So can we catch that needs right now to give that child permission to say, okay, why not you just, have the 10 minutes break. But in order to give that options, the 10 minutes and permission to the child, right, there are a lot of background work. First, you probably, do you have a agreement, the schedule by what time that the child needs to finish the homework as an agreement between you and the child? And as long as you feel that, oh, that 10 minutes won't hurt the finishing time, right? Things like that. So this one is another topic to talk about. But yeah, you hear me in terms of groundwork in order to attune to the child's need, because it's also tied in with how comfortable you are, right?
Yeah.
To allow that permission. Then just now reconnect, we already say, right? And lastly, embrace. Embrace what? Embrace with gratitude and celebrate. So when I say gratitude, is that, wow, there's this opportunity here, like my child is not doing the homework, but I give the permission for myself to allow him to go and have a break, for example. That is something that you have overcome your own fear of, like, my child is not doing homework right now, right here, right?
Mm.
So that celebration of how you take the different actions to learn about you and yourself, you and your child, right? And that celebration together with your child who is able to say, come back with 10 minutes and maybe you are still within the time that agreed and finish his homework. That would be something that we can celebrate, to acknowledge each other, how we have tried a different action, but still able to overcome some of these uncertainties, right? That you are not comfortable, and celebrate. But you can use your word to say, oh, mommy acknowledge you, right? So even though you couldn't, focus in the first few minutes, but we talk about it, and, you take a break for that 10 minutes and you come back on time at 10 minutes, right? And continue to do what you want to do. So yay, high five.
Yay.
Mm.
Yeah, that's really important. And with that tool, it's just CARE, which is really, really easy to remember. And also a reminder, in short, how to take care of ourselves and how to take care of our family as well, especially children.
Yes.
Right. Understand that you used the Dao dance therapy session, right, for your clients. And it has helped them a lot on how to restore the balance in their life. And what kind of role can this movement and breath work play in improving our relationship with our children?
So Wu Dao, right? First of all, what it is. So it's founded by Michelle Law, an Australian professional ballet dancer. But because of her injury, so she started, exploring shiatsu to self-healing, and then to also learn about TCM, the traditional Chinese medicine. She discovered that, the metal, woods, water, earth, and fire, right? These 5 elements has the coordinated meridian. So for example, right, for fire, it governs our liver and our bladder. Okay, and then when it's imbalanced, we get agitated easily. Right. So then when she designed that dance, Wu Dao dance, right, it will, when the move going, right, it will help to activate the balance of this energy flow of these meridians, right, of the pair of liver and bladder. So then along the way, right, if there's certain emotion, it will release also from that movement. So towards the end, when we debrief, so parents or anyone who interested to this dance therapy, right, after dance, we'll sit down and kind of like recall, oh, there's certain feeling that I had with certain part of my body, or there's certain movement that I just can't do. All right, we will then deconstruct and say, it's something that happened recently that kind of blocks you. And yeah, we help the parents to make sense out of this experience that they had, and possibly link back to some parenting situation and help them to kind of like, oh, this is what happened, right? And when they go back, they can reconnect with their child because they know what happened. It's something that always happened inside of us, that is not the child fault, things like that.
Yeah, and I guess like motherhood is pretty lonely as well. Sometimes you feel the anger, you feel the frustration, but you don't know who to go to or who to talk to sometimes, which is why I guess when we bottle up too much, we are covering or blinded ourselves with all these emotions. Make some of us like not so conscious about it.
And sometimes, right, we don't have the words for it. And using Wu Dao is actually movement. You know how we as baby, the fetus inside, that is our first communication language, right? We use movement. Then mommy know that, oh, you're kicking here and there, right? So yeah, so then dance is always something that we can use for nonverbal communications. Yeah.
Nice. I'm going to try that one day.
I will invite you when I have the new session.
Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, Jenny, for sharing with us all your little tips and very, very useful tips on how to do our parenting better, how to improve the connection with ourselves and together with our children as well. Really, really helpful. And I hope it, to parents out there, it also helps you as well. And if you need to find out more, do check out our podcast and our videos, right? And her links, everything will be there and you will be able to find her as well. Right. Thank you, Jenny, for joining our podcast today.
Bye.
Hi.
Thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Learning Curve, the podcast for parents and educators. We hope you found today's episode helpful in supporting your positive parenting journey and your child's learning and development. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite listening platform so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in what you heard, we would appreciate it if you could leave us a rating and review. This helps us reach more parents like you who could benefit from our content. We also want to hear from you if you have any questions, comments, or feedback. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us through our website or social media channels. We are here to support you on your parenting journey and are always happy to hear from our listeners. Thank you again for listening, and we look forward to sharing more valuable insights and strategies with you in our next episode.